African-American female-owned companies in the directory, 192 African-American male companies. As you can see the breakdown for Asian Americans. Caucasian females, there are 218, as there are 17 Caucasian males, and those male firms are part of the SLBE, Small Local Business Enterprise. So that's why you see they're not certified as minorities or women, but they're part of the SLBE Enterprise program that we have. Hispanic and Latino, you see the breakdown there, as well as for the Native American and Native American males and females. Our last chart is the average days to complete certification. This is our current fiscal year. It's taken us 46.9 days to process new applications. It's taken us 26.47 days average to process annual certification, and it's taken 35 days for new SLBEs and 12 days for annual SLBE applications. So we're well below the 90-day target that we required by MoDOT and internally to process within 90 days or less. The 51 there is the number of applicants we received for this current fiscal year. Calendar year. Since January 1st, we received 51 applications, so that's the number we received through March. And that completes my presentation. I've tried to be as brief as possible, and I'll be happy to answer any question that any of the council members may have at this time.
Well, thank you, Mr. Yalder. You did a very good job of getting through a lot of material. Mm-hmm. I have one question. How many is on your staff in your department?
Overall, we have 23 individuals, including myself.
So it's a lot of work for 23 people.
Yes,
so.
ma'am.
Questions by the committee? Councilwoman Canady.
Did you have questions? I know you have to go, so I will defer my time if you'd like.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Mr. Yoder, thank you for your presentation. Good overview. And is this information, this presentation, going to be made available to the public?
It will be available, loaded into through the meeting's website. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. Because there's some stuff people may want to refer back to procedurally, which is good information. But while we have you here, have a good list of questions to ask you about the process. You know, for the individual that is not familiar with the process, that is just a new person starting out in business, how would you rate the ease of navigating your system?
Well, we have 3 workshops that we perform monthly. Mm-hmm. We have, for new applicants, we have a workshop for MWBE that walks the applicant through the process. This is held on the 4th Tuesday of every month. We have a separate workshop for SLBE firms that is seeking certification. Then we have another workshop on how to do business with the city. And this one is just kind of talking not only about certification, but just general stuff about, and we work with general services and promoting and carrying on that particular workshop. But it's just basic information, turning your bid in on time, how to go to the plan room, how to register as a vendor, how to get your company set up so that you get notifications from, because one of the things that we've seen since I've been here is that a lot of firms, like Jason and Ms. Hinkle said, they get registered and they kind of stop right there. It's not going, the businesses are not going to come to you like that. So we work with general services in terms of making sure that contractors, they register as a vendor, they receive notifications in work that's related to their area. They can also go to the plan room and just view all the plans. We also encourage them to network with other prime general contractors if they're planning to participate on some of these large projects. We hold individual workshops about every quarter just to try to get people informed about upcoming information or contracting opportunities. We have an event coming up on I think it's the 4th or 6th of April at the Bruce R. Watkins. We're going to be talking about the financial structure of your company. We work with Blue Hills Association on different programs to help promote small businesses and help them to understand small business in the city. We set up the application process online where applicants can start that process at their leisure and complete it, at their leisure and submit the applications online. Even then, we still have staff members that will call them, or they can call staff member to inquire about questions that they have about the application process. I didn't go through all the documents and why we asked for the documents, but all of that's is included in there as well. Why did we ask for tax returns, the company history, the bylaws, the operating agreements, the stock certificates, financial statements, business plans, all that information is needed to ensure that the applicant we certify is really owned, operated, managed, controlled by a minority, a women-owned individual.
That's good to know. And then in addition, secondly, for the individuals, I know we have the certification process, what you go through, but when you're talking about when they're bidding for work, what for the new business owner, how competitive are they typically versus the favorite company? And how do we, other than favoritism, justify that the same companies get work over and over?
And that, in all fairness, council member, it's something that we work with, because at the same time we encourage partnerships and relationship between prime and subcontractors, because we really want to see, once that project is completed for the city, that prime will take that sub with them in the private sector as well. That's our ultimate goal, is to get that general contractor and prime contractor working on projects outside of KCMO and in other areas. So with that said, we're not able to really dictate how the bidding process works. What we are able to do is ensure that there's fairness. We have standards in our contract documents that says if they submit a bid, you cannot do any bid shopping. I mean, they can't be saying, okay, I turned in a bid, then they call somebody else and say, well, hey, his bid is at this dollar amount. Can you beat that? That's prohibited by statute and prohibited by our ordinance. But beyond that, unless we receive a complaint from a contractor that, they feel that they have been somewhat treated unfairly in the solicitation process, that's where we can start an investigation and request the documentation. At that point, we can request the bid documentation or the bid tabs from the contractor. What we try to always ask them to do is to work with the prime contractor to identify, not just send them a scope of work, but also maybe pick up the phone, meet with them, let them know who you are as an individual and what your company can do, because sometimes it's just not always clear on paper the capacity of some of these firms.
And is that something that you guys, as part of your due diligence for the certification, is that?
It's part of our due diligence in promoting business development, not in terms of the certification, but in promoting business development. But during the certification workshops, we cover all these things about, making sure that you stay in contact with your general contractor, how to network with the city, how to network at these different events. And if we have large projects like we did with East Patrol, we held several workshops with the general contractors and with some of their subcontractors to introduce the minority and women-owned businesses to the general, so that there would be a better opportunity for participation and for achieving the overall goals.
Okay, that's helpful to know. But just to clarify, you said that HRD would like to foster these relationships where they extend outside of the city. Is that the priority of this program, or is it to encourage business opportunities for disadvantaged business owners?
It is not the overall priority, but it is one of the needed necessities of the program to be successful, because as we look at the program and we're able to meet or exceed the goals. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the work still takes place in the private sector, where we would like to see that general prime contractor utilize those subcontractors in those arenas as well, because that work is not, it's more open for negotiation in terms of price and fees. Whereas with the city, we are kind of mandated that we have to take the lowest and best bid in terms of our overall structure. Where in the private sector, sometimes they're not even bidding the work, and they're just negotiating the work, which gives the minority or even some of the generals a better opportunity to, in terms of profit-wise, on the project. So we want to see, our goal is twofold, as you stated, is one, to see that they also are working in the private sector, but at the same time develop those business relationships here with the city.
Well, I don't want to take up too much more time, but I just like to I'll do some editorial piece here.
Go right ahead.
And I'll preface what I'm going to say with this is that to the extent that we are giving disadvantaged business owners opportunities is a good thing, and that Kansas City does have a program in place to effectuate that is a good thing. But I would like to see or ensure that in doing that, we give as many businesses that opportunity, whether it's, whatever the classifications for disadvantage, fall within that spectrum. And then we don't fall into this habit of having our favorites that we want to match up, matchmaking, so to speak. Because if what you're saying is true, that this is their first opportunity to be able to do business with these primes, and you keep giving these same opportunities to the same people because we perceive them as having better capacity, then you have some that may be disadvantaged because they are a woman or because they are, I don't know if we do census tracts or whatever the other classifications are, and they're not given those same opportunities. And so making sure that in our business development process, we're doing, we're working intentionally to empower these business owners so that they can be competitively amongst themselves, which is what Mr. Parsons mentioned about earlier. And I believe that is one of the things you guys work to do, but that we do it on purpose, because otherwise we can create an environment where we're perpetuating some of that too. This person does this task really well, and then, when said contractor wants somebody that does that good, that's who's at the top of your list, you're going to refer them. And I think that's a good thing, but how do the other people that are on the bottom of that list that do good work but haven't caught your eye, how do they compete competitively?
Well, from the city standpoint, one of the things that we put in place several years ago was the Small Local Business Enterprise Program. That program was designed to grow small business to prime capacity, be able to bid on prime contracts. We've been able to do that, and as a result of that, some firms that started, let's say, at the bottom as a small local business now have grown out of the program because they've received contracts and awards from the city where their gross receipts have exceeded the threshold. So as a result, it's now allowing other small businesses, especially in the professional service on the architect engineering side, some of the newer architect and engineering firms to come in now and be in a position to be selected as a prime on some of these projects, where some of the larger firms now have grown out of that. But one of the things that we always cognizant about is as you talk about bringing in, and in some regards, the industry help dictates a lot of this, because when you do have a small company and you're just starting out, there's a lot of things that they're having to learn, and that's where the SLBE program comes in to teach them the business acumen that they will need to be successful on these projects. The other thing comes about is simply performance on the contract. If they perform well, that general is going to use them over and over again, and they will tell other people that this is a good company. And so a lot of it is what we can do internally through our programs, and the rest of it is what they will be able to do through their own ability to perform on the job site.
Okay, thank you.
I'll echo,
Councilman.
Madam Chair, if I can,
Yes.
a lot of the comments that Councilwoman Canady has made, and just kind of go back to my earlier statement of making sure that we're doing all we can to improve our program. We're in the middle of our budget for next year. I know that Mr. Yoder, you've mentioned about 23 staff members, and I know every year there's always considerable discussion about growing the staff so that you all can do more
Sure.
to be able to help more companies in our city as well. And there are a number of things that I think I don't have the 446 pages of the budget memorized, but I do know that there are some increases in your staff from the budget angle in ways that help us kind of improve our program. And I can tell you that we have been a leader in this area across the country. We're just getting back from National League of Cities, and there are a number of cities who call on us quite often to ask what are we doing here in Kansas City to help small businesses, but then more particularly the MBE WBE program in our HRD department. So I commend you and your staff for sort of the limited resources that you do have to do a daunting task. And you all do a very fine job at that. So I will leave my comments there and again, echo a lot of the line of questions that have already been made and again, repeat that we must do more to enhance what we already have.
If I may, Councilmember, just to kind of comment on Councilmember Reed's, one of the things we've tried to do, one of the things the city has done is invested and a lot of stuff in terms of electronic formatting, electronic reporting, electronic monitoring. This has helped some. All of our reporting is online in terms of the monitoring of the MBWB, the monitoring of the workforce, the monitoring of prevailing wage. The majority of those reports now are submitted online, so that helps a lot. It still requires that we still have staff available on the job site, because if we have staff out there on the job site, that deters a lot of shenanigans that may take place out there from time to time that, as these individuals here were talking about.
And I'll mention too, based on what you said, a lot of that sort of shenanigans, a lot of time we discuss in our Transportation Infrastructure Committee, and you guys are, of course, always welcome to join us, and we look at these in great detail quite often. And it's part of the reason why during my presentation on the council floor, when we're in the full session, that I often mention kind of our review of it, because we do talk about them in lengthy detail. So.
Councilwoman Hall? Good. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yelder. I think the one thing I would go back to, as my two colleagues have mentioned, is using the same firm over and over and over. I think we need to be cognizant of that, maybe because there may be firms that are just as good, if not better, and they never get the opportunity or the chance to prove themselves because they're being shut out by one or two small businesses. So I don't know what we can do about that, but as council members, we can certainly say something if it's a city department. But I just want to be careful that we don't become part of the problem.
Sure.
If I could make a recommendation, Madam Chair, that may be something that, as we're meeting as a committee, this may be something that we're able to explore as maybe suggestion of cutting through the red tape, that this is something that we hope to accomplish within a year. So as we're meeting here, we're developing some sort of criteria of what we want to see.
Absolutely.
And some real outcomes, and cutting through the red tape may be a good way to sort of frame it. And
that's
guys
our
get
new
it done
effort.
in a year or something.
And we can work on that. I'll work with legal in terms of what we can do as a city to help address that concern that you've had. And the next time, or whenever you would like for me to come back to give you a presentation, and maybe in a month or two, we can come back with some possible ideas, at least to toss out there that you all can consider.
Perfect.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Absolutely.
I was at a workshop a few weeks ago over at the Federal Reserve, and Dale Gines, one of the community development officers for the Federal Reserve, made a comment, and he said, when big businesses come to town, we roll out the red carpet, but when small businesses want to start in town, we roll out the red tape. I thought that was very fitting.
Very fitting.
And so
You could have used it as your own today. We would have been like,
I know, but I, as a lawyer, I give credibility. I have to cite where I got it from.
That's good.
Okay, but I thought it was very good. It ties in with Councilman Reed's comments, and I think that would be a great project for this committee to work on.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Yoder, you've worked diligently in this capacity over the years, and so you know some of the pitfalls some of these business owners fall into, and managing expectations and trying to expedite the process. Because as Councilwoman Hall has said, small businesses are, it's our bread and butter in this town. And so whatever we can do to support that, we want to do it.
Okay. Absolutely. Any more questions or comments from the committee? Okay, sure.
Just to piggyback off what everybody said, that is the critical factor. And, having these small businesses, whether it's the MBE or the WB, get the contract and bringing more of them into the field of play isn't the goal isn't really the objective. We want them to be productively in play and not just, like she's saying, not just using the same 2 or 3, whatever the numbers are, but really making sure that they're qualified for X jobs, so that we're putting people to work successfully with partnerships that make sense for what they're best at. And sometimes what we do is we're saying we want them all to come to work, but we do, but we want it to be a successful, not just that we're just cycling them through. So we said, well, we put you on the thing. It's not just about a numbers game, but it's about efficiently doing it in the appropriate way so that they have a positive experience, so that continues to build all the relationships with all of the subs and primes throughout, from now on, not just for a period of time. So this is not a short-term fix.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hall.
Chairman Loar,
Yes.
one other thing I would like to mention to the committee, some of the partnership initiatives that we're currently working on. We have a partnership with Lead Bank where they're providing contractor financing for us. I believe you was at the opening that we had a couple of months ago. We also have a mentor protege program to kind of address what you said in terms of trying to help where we have some larger firms that were willing to mentor some of the smaller firms. We do have a sliding scale in it where they don't use all of their work with just the prime. There's a scale where it tailors off from 70% down to like 40% over a period of 2 to 3 years. So they're just not beholden to that one individual prime contractor. As I talked about, we have the current disparity study that we're reviewing now. We're going to be coming back with recommendations in terms of maybe some of the things that you all are talking about in terms of how we be more strategic and getting work to these primes and subs in our community. And then some of the things that we just do on a basis without even thinking about is just making sure that we get good contact information. Because a lot of times when we send out notifications to minority women-owned firms, we get bounces where the email bounce, and I'm sure it may happen to you all when you all are doing things out there. And so we try to make sure that we have good contact information. And we usually try to use our summer interns to help us go through and clean up our databases at the end of the year.
That's a good project.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, well, listen, thank you all for being here and the great comments and questions. Our next meeting will be March 22nd, where Bobby Baker Hughes will bring in her interns from the Rockhurst College who worked, their MBA interns that worked on rebranding Independence Avenue into an international marketplace. So that one's going to be a fun one. Then April 5th and April 22nd are the following meetings. So if there's no other business to come before the committee, Councilwoman Hall.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, I just wanted to tell you that the Mid-Continent Public Library and the Clay County Economic Development Corporation hosted their second Small Business Boot Camp at the Woodneath Library. It was the Friday before we left for NLC, and it was a great turnout. We had several hundred small business and women and minority-owned business owners come to this event to hear from a local entrepreneur who's become successful, Jason Rule, who owns Corner Cafe. And he was the featured keynote speaker, and it was a great opportunity for these folks to do that. We also had probably, I want to say, 20 vendors. And I was hopeful that we would be there, but we didn't end up having a table. I had hoped KC BizCare would have a table, but we didn't. So I'm going to make sure that happens for the next one. The next Small Business Boot Camp in the Northland will be on September 23rd with another new opportunity for small businesses to have opportunities to shine, to show what they have, but also then services that promote and support small businesses to also shine and show what they have to offer in local Kansas City. And so it was a successful day, and I was pleased to be a part of it.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And we have opportunities like this all over the city, just about all of the time. And I think the mayor may have some news for us later on today on an award that the city received in the technology field. He went down to South by Southwest, and I believe he might have at least some information to share with us later today. Okay, if there's nothing else to come before the